Hola, hola, hola. Welcome everyone to an awesome Tuesday. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTraining.tv, where we are well caffeinated today. Very awesome. And the whole goal of this broadcast every day at this time is to help everyone become better FileMaker developers to build great applications. Why? Because your customers need you to build great applications. The world is full of software that sucks. The goal is to make a better world. So you need better software. Okay, awesome. We have that going. So let's cover some basic housekeeping tips upcoming on the broadcast schedule. August 6th, August 6th. It's a really big day. It's going to be super action-packed. This is what's happening. This is what's coming. This is Christian Olson, the guy with the face there, the smiley face. He's one of our senior engineers. He is also the coaching services manager. He is going to be taking the content from today. Today is kind of like how to use an add-on module. We're going to give you the add-on module. In fact, we've already posted it online, and we're going to be walking you through. This is a multi-hour event. We're going to be recording it, but it's going to be, goes in our training. It won't be free. It's going to go into our training. Obviously, anyone here who has a bundle can show up and be part of this, but the idea is that we're going to teach you how to build your own modules, right? So it's a step-by-step walkthrough of building your own modules. It should be pretty great. Christian, how long, you're there. Are you there, Christian? Christian Olson, are you there?
I'm here.
How long does it take you to I mean, like, I'm basically reserving the whole day for you, so it's not like a 1-hour event, right? So you can't, I mean, say you take someone with intermediate skill set. Say we have someone in the skill set over here in the intermediate level. How long will it take you to teach them how to do an add-on module? What does that look like? Hours?
Let me break it into two pieces. The first piece is coming up with an idea that can be turned into an add-on. Not everything with our current tools can be an add-on or easily turned into one. So that would be step one. And then the amount of hours it would take you to build that. So like the virtual menus that we're going to look at here, I dare guess the 100 hours or so I've probably put into this. I've dumped a lot of time. The second part of that is, okay, you have a file that is cool that can be an add-on. How do you translate that into being an add-on? And the reality is
that's the conversation. That's the conversation we want. Not how to build. Yeah.
And that isn't in the tune of hours. It's in the tune. Once you understand the hoops you have to jump through, it's less than an hour of work.
But we have to assume that no one knows the hoops. So let's say that TK55678 has an application that will install a plugin that gives you the winning lottery numbers, and he wants to make that into an add-on module. So, but he doesn't know anything about add-on modules, but he built this file with a layout, with a script, with fields that does this, right? And say it meets your objective, that you could fit it in, right? So how long would it take you to explain to an intermediate person? Not that TK is intermediate, but intermediate's our goal. Because I think if we have to explain this to Bunny, we could be here for a month. So,
yeah, and we went over this in a previous video. I don't expect anyone to remember that, but if you can follow the instructions, I probably could teach TK how to do it in under an hour.
Okay. So
there's really not that many parts to it. You have to have a layout, you have to group some objects together, you have to name those grouped objects, and then you need to have an installer. And the installer isn't that complicated at all. We're going to show one today. And then if you want to have relationships, it's a little bit trickier. You have to have a couple more objects off to the side of the screen, named properly, and then grouped together and named properly. Most of this has to do with a layout that's named a certain way and grouped objects that are named a certain way. So if you know what that looks like, if you know the recipe, it's actually not that hard.
Okay.
Once you get it to work the first time.
Counselor, can I pause you for a second?
Absolutely.
Pause. So this Christian in his previous life was either a politician or a lawyer, because I've asked him the question now 3 times and he has technically not answered it at all.
Less than an hour.
That's not true, because you are assuming that they understand the hoops that go through, right? And you have to explain the hoops first, right?
Yes.
So, okay. I don't think Christian has a clue how long it'll take. So we're just going to book out the whole day for everyone. When he's done, he's done. I'm going to be there in the room. I'm going to have my little cardiac paddles. hit him, knock him back up. I've got caffeine for him. We'll caffeinate him. If he needs adult beverages to keep going, whatever it takes, we will do it. But I don't think he knows. So,
and well, to follow up with what you're saying there, just so people know, it didn't take me less than an hour to make an add-on work successfully the first time. I did beat my head against the wall for several hours. Now I know the correct handshake, and it's really easy. So if someone like myself can show you the correct handshake, it's fairly easy. If you decide to set it on this on your own and just follow the instructions, it can be quite challenging.
Yeah, weeks. So I know you've been wrestling with this for weeks. So, Christian, are you ready to kind of kick things over here for us here?
I think I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Yeah, let me just do one thing. I want to remind everyone that this broadcast is brought to you by FMTraining.tv. Oh, sorry, I didn't do that correctly. Let me try this. This broadcast is brought to you by FMTraining.tv, where you get the greatest in FileMaker training at a super low price. Visit FMTraining.tv and click the bundle button. You'll be glad you did. All right, cool. All right, we good with that? Cool. All right, Mr. Christian, off you go.
Perfect. Let me get you off screen there. All right. So just to recap really quickly on what we're going to go over today and what we're kind of not necessarily going to go over, I'm going to show you guys the virtual menus that we went over last week. Last week, I showed you 2 integrations, and I think that this made things a little bit confusing. So we've boiled it down, if you will, down to the most quintessential pieces, and I'm going to show you this integration of the virtual menus, which was the second one from last week. After I kind of give you a walkthrough of how the virtual menus works, how you can make your own menus, I'm going to show you how easy it is to add it to your file with the download link that we've provided to everybody. I'm not going to be explaining how virtual menus works. If we have time at the end and there's some questions, I'm happy to answer them, but that's not necessarily going to be the focus of today. The focus of today, as Richard said, is to kind of show off this new part of FileMaker, which is the add-on tool, and maybe what this can open up for all of us developers kind of moving forward. Let's jump on in. So this, well, not that. This is virtual menus. Virtual menus is basically a menu system that allows you to choose action items and also to have submenu items that can contain actions themselves or more submenus themselves. The demo, go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt. So let me state that another way. If you would like to have your own menu on screen in your FileMaker layout and have it be dynamically controlled, where you can easily change these items here, then this virtual menus is an awesome tool for you. Okay, so that's basically you want to glue this, and it doesn't have to have 3 levels deep. It could have 4 levels. It could have 1 level. You can change all the words, and all these activate scripts, right? So the idea is that if you want to put that in your solution, then you would. We talked about it last Tuesday, kind of how it works. Even then, it was there's kind of not a super deep dive because it's pretty technical. But the idea is instead of being super technical, you just drag and drop it onto your solution, which is what we're going to do. So awesome.
Exactly. What we want to show off is that you don't need to be a senior engineer to add this to your file. You can be a fairly regular user and dump it in here and make this work. And the beauty of the add-on tool is you don't have to know how it works. We can answer questions on that, but it's more to show you how easy this can be because it really changes and expands the potential of FileMaker. But exactly as Richard said, you can have a menu that has 1 item in it. You could have one that has 2, 3. And even though my demo only provides for 3 deep, the infrastructure that's in here, it can go as deep as you want to. It would actually be quite easy to expand it. Frankly, I suspect that for most people, 2 or 3 deep is probably going to be sufficient for most use cases. And yes, these do call actual scripts. Parameter can be applied, and it can be applied per layout, per user, whatever logic is there. And we'll kind of get into that. One thing I want to point out now, and I'll bring up one more time, is that the current integration of this is using a plugin. You might not notice it through the stream, but I'm hovering to actually initiate this action. And unfortunately, that isn't something that you can natively do with FileMaker.
Okay, so officially, normally I would boo your stage right now, but it is pretty much the most popular plugin for the FileMaker platform, which is the Base Elements plugin. Not to be confused the base elements analysis tool, which can triage and provide insight into your FileMaker file. It's a free plugin that pretty much everyone on the planet uses one way or the other, right? So it will auto install, right? Doesn't it auto install?
Yeah, it's free, and the add-on we give you has everything. You don't have to go do anything else except for maybe find some icons. It's totally free. And just to add on what Richard said there, I ascribe myself to the philosophy, if I can do something without a plugin, even if it's harder, I prefer to do that. I don't want to rely on some other person continuing to build a product that I depend on for the entirety of a project. And generally, I just avoid them in general. Base Elements, Monkey Bread, there's a couple plugins, 360 works. I trust that these companies are not going anywhere. They're solid plugins. And frankly, in regards to this, the hover and having it open is just so cool. That being said, if you wanted to add this and you don't want to rely on a plugin, you don't have to. I've disabled the plugin for right now, and if you click, you can open and close the menus. So though the plugin is really cool, it's not a requirement to this file. So the next part of this is one of the really fun parts, and I do want to hint, I'm not going to really go too far on this, that we are working on a version 2, if you will, on this. And a big part of that has to do with this layout right here. I'm not going to hate on my own layout, but I do think that there is room for improvement on this. I've showed this to a number of the engineers at RCC, and though it makes sense to me, it doesn't also make sense to them. And there are a couple bugs in here. But I'm going to walk you through generally kind of how this works. So these over here are our current menu sets. The add-on comes with these as demos to show you how it works. So these records download with it, and they work. But you're probably going to want to make your own menu. So let's go ahead here and do that. So I'm going to do a new menu. Okay. And once you make a new menu, one of the first things you need to do is make an item or make a submenu. So I'm going to call this item 1. Once you make an item, there's a couple other things that you can do, and some things that you absolutely should do. One of those is choosing a script. I'm going to come back to this in just a moment. The other thing that you can do is add icons in here. So one of the things that this file does, if you add an icon to any of the menu item records, it records it, and on the right-hand side here is a non-repeating list of all the icons in the file. So just repeat that. If I drop an icon, for example, in Discord, we're all sharing all of our favorite places to get icons on the internet. I love this. I'm a big icon guy. Can probably tell by all the things I have in this file. Everything's got different customized icons. But if you drop one into here and it's not already in the list, it'll show up in there. Down here, I can add submenus, which I'll show you in just a moment. If I add an icon there, it will show up in the list. If I add an icon here, it will show up in the list. And if I want to use one of these icons, I simply click on it and I can paste it in there. Additionally, if there's no icon in here, I can click on it and I've got it pasted right now. So I'm gonna turn that off. I click on here, it's gonna try to find it on my computer, or I can drag it in. Again, we're gonna make some improvements to this layout, though this seems to make sense to me. Something that many of you can probably relate to, or you should learn now, is when you develop things, we tend to have a blindness to the fact that, of course, it makes sense to us. We designed it. And so when Richard calls my layout an abomination, I don't take any
quoting Nick. So what we did is that in the event of an emergency, we pull the Nick handle. It's like when you're flying the plane. Here we go. So we're flying the plane, right? And then there's a fire. The user interface is horrible. So what we do is we pull the fire handle, but it says Nick on it. We rip it out, and then that dispenses Nick all over the solution. So literally doing a kind of a cleanup on this thing right now. Just on the interface, he's not rebuilding. He's just, because I looked at this, I was like, okay, we got one shade of blue, then this other shade of blue here, but a gradient, but then this thing down here, and then there's other blue over here, and then I was like, so it kind of goes this way, but then does it go up here and down? It's not really clear, and so, but it made sense to Christian. Whereas if we go over here real quick, can we go over here, Christian, and just pop that menu for me? This looks like $1 billion. It looked like Nick built it. This is like super amazing. So I don't want to change this. I just wanted this to be more clear. And then also there, you'll see this installer that we have is a little bit Christian-y on the installer. So we want Nick to have this and to have kind of a standard on this. And Nick's term for that, it's an abomination. Although I would not say it to Christian if he was going to take it personal. So Christian,
No,
Christian,
and we ascribe ourselves at RCC to an ideology, if you will, a method of making things that don't suck. And the idea is that when you go to make something, you try to make the best thing that you can, and then you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to make it suck less. So I put lots of time into making this suck less. It didn't look like this originally. I sat and looked at how this worked and tried to copy it as much as I closely could. Over here, again, I don't hate it, but when someone says to me, this can suck less, frankly, anything that I build can suck less, and I'm all for that.
Yeah.
So to jump back into this, so we can grab an icon.
So that's coming August 6th. So when he demos this thing and tears it apart and shows you how to take this and build it into, build the add-on tool, that will be the newest version. It doesn't matter for you so much here. I don't really think once you understand how this works, I don't know that anyone can. Interrupting.
Yeah, and I want to just show people, so if they go and download it right now, they can use it for themselves. So this is how you make an item. You can name it, you can give it an icon, and then you can give it a script. This is absolutely imperative or it doesn't do anything. So right now there's a couple scripts that'll show up in here, but how do you add to this value list? So you click on this button right here, and this is a list of all of the scripts that are in the file. You find the script that you want, you check the box to it. Like we'll go ahead and do that with blank here for a moment. Come back here, and now blank shows up in the list. One of the things that is happening under the hood here, again, this isn't how this file works, but I think this is cool. It sets the script ID, not the script name. So you are free to change the names of your scripts if you integrate this in your file. It will not break. If you take your file and duplicate it, that can break it because that resequences the IDs. Similarly, I can go in here and I can remove blank from my list. And that's basically a list of all of the scripts that are in the system. Other than making an item, the other thing that you can do is make a submenu. Perfect. So in this case, we've got an item. Down here, we're going to make a submenu. The way that you make a submenu is rather simple. You just add items below it. So item 1, item 2. And you'll notice that this funky icon showed up over to the left here, which indicates that basically it is a submenu. This next part, I don't think is totally intuitive, and this is one of the things we're improving. But if I wanted to dive deeper into this, I can select one of these items here, or I can select this. They both do something similar but slightly different. So now I'm looking at that submenu, and it says it up here. I can go backwards. If I select item 1, it does the same thing, except I can start adding to item 1. So if I go over here and I select item 2, I'm in submenu, but I could start adding submenu items to item 2. At this point, I can give either of these a script. I can give them an icon to kind of show you a finished product of what this looks like. Over here, I have what's called infinite menu. An infinite menu is a way of demonstrating that this can go well beyond 3 submenus. So I've got submenu 1. I can click on submenu 1. Submenu 2 has another submenu in it. I can click on that submenu. It's got another one. It's got another one. It's got another one. It just keeps diving down. I don't even know where I'm at right now, 6, 7 deep, and then I can back up. Now, again, if you want to have more than 3 submenus, there is going to be work required of you. As of right now, menu 1 is a good example of where it's built. You've got some items. You have a submenu. Whoops. I'll do that right. Yeah. There's your submenu items, and then here's the third submenu items. So you can add scripts to use in the solution. You've got a library of icons. You can resequence these. If you want this to be in the first position, you can throw it in the first position. If you want this to be in the first position, you can throw it in the first position. It's all made. Oh, that one didn't work. That's fantastic to have live. There it goes. So it's all made so that you can really kind of move these around and change them as you need. One other thing that I want to talk about that'll probably change in future ones is the script parameter. This is script parameters, as you guys get better and better with FileMaker, you'll find is one of the most powerful things you have when you call a script. A limitation in this file right now is that this is text-based.
Partly a community here. Kyle Williams, he says, this is pretty amazing. I've created something similar with hover action using MBS plugin, but having a menu builder makes it much easier and works great. Christian, yeah. And so the to Kyle Williams' point, he was on YouTube. You could do this with MBS. You can do a lot with MBS, but MBS is a paid product, and as much as I love the MBS product, I don't want to come in here and say, hey, everyone, go spend money on a plugin. If you're spending your time with us here, if I'm going to recommend a product for you, I mean, I do recommend MBS, but I think we can do this without it. There's some things that the MBS is really great on doing. Like if you're a senior citizen and you want to see the scripts larger, that's super useful, right? For us older people, right? Christian's not old enough for that yet, but someday he will be. And you can zoom in on the size of the scripts. You can see it much easier with your reading glasses, etc. So anyway.
I recently learned that, and that's actually great for coaching.
Oh, it is? Okay, yeah, great. Show everyone that real quick. Just show. You have MBS installed?
Everyone's going to scream when they see I'm still in dark mode. So
that's fine.
Yeah,
just zoom in.
You can zoom in on it.
So just watch this. So he's got normal size here, and then that's like that normal size right there.
Oh, it won't zoom in anymore. It'll only zoom out. That's great.
That's
I thought it would zoom in more.
There it goes. There it goes. So see how, hold it there for a second. Let's see how easy that is. Okay, that's a little bit. Okay, I'm not 90. Okay, but if I'm 90. No, the problem is it loses track of its correct numbering here, but you can actually hit that button in the middle and it puts you back to the middle. So if you download MBS, you just use it without paying for it, you get this feature for totally free. So it's a good way to get in front of people and let them see this. So anyway, pretty cool. Yeah, I know the line numbers suck, but you know, sometimes I come downstairs and I want to work on the computer and I don't have my glasses on, so I have to get close to the screen.
Perfect. So we're going to dive into how to install it now, which is really one of the coolest parts of all this because of how simple it is. The last thing I'll show you is once it's integrated, these are all those different menus that we created, and this is how you would select one of those menus, which is important to the actual integration of this. So that's a nice little bug there. So I can show you guys how to fix that though. So we're going to go ahead and close that, and now what we're going to do is we're going to get our menu back, or we're going to open up virtual menus again, and we're going to open this installer, which Richard is in love with. This is probably his favorite part of the whole solution. So the installer comes up, and it's really straightforward. You click install. And it's going to do some stuff. You guys didn't see the folder opened up. Just close it. One day I'll learn how to do the Apple script to close it. Close the installer. In fact, I had it closing it, but one of the seniors this morning got a little confused. He felt like he didn't know what happened because everything just closed. It all happened so fast. So I'm going to open this back up, and now we're going to go and do a practice copy.
Okay, hang on.
Go ahead.
Hang on. So this, when you get your zip, we gave you the download. You're getting these all three things here, right, Christian? They get that in their zip.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, keep going.
So you got an installer, you've got the demo file, and then I give you a practice version of FMSP 20, the US version, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So actually, we're going to open that now. So this is our, wow, we're going to need to make that a little smaller. Give me 1 second. Operating in the low resolution is probably the hardest part of these streams.
I know, but otherwise people, it's really hard to see.
I totally understand why we do it, but I don't know if people realize that I have a 30-inch monitor here, and this is taking up the entire thing. It's okay, so I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the accounts module to start this. And again, this is a bit of a recap of what we did last week, but it's been simplified, boiled down to make as easy as possible. I'm just going to give a quick shout out. Really excited to see Jake and Amy here. If you guys don't know this, I am Wolfpaw. That's why I was saying hi to you in there. And any of my other clients that happen to be lurking out there, I'm glad to have you all, along with the rest of the streamers. So we're going to go into layout mode here, and we're going to go to our add-ons panel, this new panel with 19. Again, everything I'm showing here does require FileMaker 19.
Okay, so let's do this a little slower. I'm going to zoom in on the left a little bit. I'm going to even do enhanced zoomage over and above what you're doing. So let's just go slow. So this is this section right here. That's brand new. If you don't see this, you're not in 19, right?
And the installer, it will tell you. It won't let you install if you try to open it with a version before 19.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Cool trick I learned from.
Okay, so now we're going to press this down here. Okay.
And this opens up the library of add-ons that probably come from Claris, but are also locally on your machine. So I just installed this one that's got the black menu there. It says it was created by Claris. I'm stoked about that part. This one is the original one I did for clients. Just pretend you don't see that. We'll edit out of the video. And now I'm going to install it into this file. And just so we can all kind of understand what's going on here a little bit, The installer installs it onto your machine. If you develop from multiple machines and you want to use this for multiple machines, you run the installer per machine. That puts it into your computer. This action puts it into the file.
Okay, hold.
So
I need you to repeat that again very carefully, because what some people may have heard is that, well, if they want to use the menus, they have to install this.
they don't. If you're the developer and you're adding it to files, you run the installer so that it shows up here on that computer. And then if you want to add it to a file, you have to push this positive button. So after I add it to this copy of Starting Point, if I go open a new copy of Starting Point, I'll have to do this again. This is done per file, but it is only done once per file.
Yeah, and then your users don't need it because you already put it in the file, already in the FMP12 file, right? So
correct.
Yeah.
And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and push this now while we're talking because it takes a second. I've done this on a hosted solution. I didn't time it, but I believe it took about 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay, so are you talking? Okay, so AL92651 is asking where is the menu sample? You mean the download file? Okay, let me copy paste that here on. That's the thing about
if you join Twitch late, you don't see
it doesn't scroll it back. You can't scroll up, right? So I reposted it again for everyone there. So Jake, Amy, Alpha Lima 92651, there it is right there. And then the people on YouTube should see I put it a couple times there, and then I guess I could put it over here again, make sure everyone has it here. There we go. There it is in the Discord.
So the plus down here again, this brings the code over into the file. If I go into the script workspace, if I go into the value list, the custom functions, the layouts, everything from that demo file is now in this file.
Okay.
This next part.
Don't go to the next part yet. David's got a question. The installer adds. You want to go and look at that in Discord, Christian? He's talking about a path name here.
Yes, that's what it does. That's
yeah, but no one else
David
can see.
is asking.
Yeah, repeat the question.
Elaborate. What the installer does is it adds the code into the library of FileMaker. I can show this to people, but part of the beauty is you don't have to go and find this. So on a Mac, you have your library, you have application support. Down here is FileMaker. This is where you can find your plugins. You can see I got a whole bunch of them. Inside of there, we should have, and I'm not going to see it now, add-ons, plugins, add-on modules. And if we open that, here's all the add-ons that I've installed on this machine. So if I go jump on my MacBook Pro in the other room right now, it won't necessarily have this list of add-on modules. This is on my iMac right now. And that's where it throws the code. So when you're over here and you push the plus, that's the folder that you're looking at right here.
Hey, so Kyle Williams on YouTube says that you can edit the
I figure you can, Kyle, but I haven't figured out how to do it with the installer yet.
That's what that's what he's saying here. You edit it in the info_en for English.json file. So
but I'm gonna have to write like an Apple script or something, which I have to figure it out. I know that, yeah. So what Kyle's indicating is in that library folder all the files, and that's how I can change this so that it says it's by me. But I have to figure out how in my installer I go do this.
Yeah, we have to do that in advance. On the uphill side before you pull the trigger.
So this next part is going to feel weird, but it shouldn't. When you go to add layout objects, it can be a button bar, it can be a button, it can be a portal, it can be tabs. You click on the object that you want and you position it where you want on screen, and it adds that element to your layout. We're going to do the same thing, but it's new. So over here in the panel, I have the add-on, the virtual menus. I'm going to drag this on screen, and I'm going to position it. Basically, I want it in the body. If you put it in between the header, it won't look right, and you can do a Command-Z and try again. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosely try to position this piece to be kind of where I want it. Now, one of the ways that the add-ons work, everything comes over as a grouped object. So now I want to ungroup it. You can do that with the arrange drop-down up here. I happen to use the keyboard command. I'm on an Apple or a Mac, so Command-Shift-R. On a PC, I'm pretty sure it's Control-Shift-R. So now I can take a couple elements, and I'm just going to throw them up here temporarily to show you kind of what just happened. So we're going to go into browse mode, and it works. So let's select a different menu because I haven't fixed that other one yet. We'll do menu 1. And it works out of the box. Granted, none of these buttons will actually do anything because those scripts don't exist. But you can see that the fundamental parts do work here. Couple things. If you don't, yeah, this honestly, I don't think that there's enough credit that can be given on how cool this is. The installer should work on Windows, David Angel. I haven't tested it. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. It's the same code and everything. I don't know where the folder exactly is. But I asked some of our coaching engineers, I just showed them the demo file and I said, best guess, how long do you think it would take you to integrate this into a customer file, into starting point? Art Savea, who you guys have seen in some of the streams, he said, I can do it in 2 hours. One of our more experienced people said, I don't know, I'm thinking more like a day. Someone else said half a day. So whether that range is anywhere between 2 to 8 hours, that's what some of our engineers thought that something like this might take to integrate, because you'd have to draw all those relationships in the back minutes. I mean, that's quite cool, I think. And honestly, the reason I made this an add-on was to add this to my customers' files, and this is the easiest way that I, as a developer, can do that. If you don't want to use the base elements integration, once it's in the file, you're going to find a script called configure. So here's our folder of all the scripts that came over, and you'd go to configure and you would change this from a 1 to a 0. So I've got some instructions there. So that's how you can disable or enable the plugin option for the hover control. Now that this is in here, I can go ahead and I can build menus for this module. You can see, again, it just kind of works there. So what I'm going to do here now for a moment, there are a couple little bugs I could point out if we want to, but I'm going to take this file and just move it off screen for a moment. And I've got another one here that I kind of set up a little bit before the stream so that you guys didn't have to watch me necessarily build a menu, but we'll talk about it. So we're going to go over here to accounts, and I'm going to go into layout mode, and I'm going to unhide this for a moment. Okay, in fact, I'll unhide both of them. Okay. So let's talk about the actual integration of this. So once it's added into your file, there are a couple more things that you need to do. I'm going to save I'm going to quote this, controversial part for the end. The straightforward part for you as a user is you go into menu builder. And in this case, I made a menu for accounts and I made the 3 actions that I want: duplicate, print, and report. I clicked on this button here to pull up all the scripts in starting point so that I could add those scripts to be selectable. I gave each of these actions an icon, and that's it. So I also did one for contacts, and I changed the order that they're in so that we can tell as we navigate between modules that a change is actually taking place. I'll try to look at those questions here in a moment. So
yeah, they're starting to pile up. So when you get a chance, we'll do that.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to unhide some of these elements here real quickly. So there's already a script trigger in starting point for on layout enter. So when I enter accounts, it throws accounts in there. When I enter contacts, it throws contacts in there. Same field. That's what's driving the menu. So when I go to accounts, I've got menu, duplicate, print, and report. And contacts, unfortunately, has the same choices, so I put them in a different order: print, report, duplicate, to show you that's what took place. Here's an example of where this could be useful. Let's go back to accounts for a moment. Accounts and contacts both have a bunch of action items at the top. There's nothing wrong with this, but maybe those action items start to drift across your screen and you run out of space. Or you just like the idea of them all being organized in one place. Suddenly, you've got everything just right here. And these items work. If I click duplicate, it duplicates. If I click print, it attempts to print. And that's not just a print script. That is a much more complicated one. And then I can also open up the reports if I want to and close that. So these totally work as is. So you just need to make sure that you create a menu per layout. And then you need to assign the scripts, the icons. If you want submenus, you basically build out what works for you. And then my idea was that you would just have a menu per module per layout. But Richard pointed out the logic could be deeper than that. Maybe some users get more actions on here than other users. So basically, you bake in whatever your logic is, so that as you come to these different areas, you have menus that meet your needs. And then you need to make sure that you set the key into this field. And once it's working, you wouldn't really see these things. The menu builder, you would probably have somewhere in like preferences so that you, the developer, could go to it. But you're not going to give a client access to those things. That's your job to make it work nicely for them. So you go ahead and hide that. And again, now as you jump back and forth between these two, oh, another window open. Now as you jump back and forth, you've got your accounts menu, you've got your contacts menu. So now we're gonna. You want me to take a look at questions here before I jump into the last part?
It's Kyle has said it's a JSON format. I'm sure that you'll tear apart this thing trying to figure out how to edit the about person.
I'm familiar with what he's talking about. I haven't even honestly tried to edit it yet, but I suspect I'm gonna have to write like an Apple script or something.
Okay, so let's start with Johnny. So start with the easy side of things. So Johnny Mac was saying, well, I don't know. Is it talking about the MBS plugin not being installed, not in the plugins folder? When you there are two plugins folders.
Which chat are you looking at?
He's on Twitch.
Okay.
Johnny my Mac. Basically, there's two plugin folders. There used to be, at least in 18. 19, there's just one now, right? Isn't there one?
I think what he's saying is that when he upgraded from 18 to 19, it didn't move his plugins, and the plugins don't move. You have to reinstall them.
Yeah, because it's not an upgrade. It's an install. Like if
there's a plugins folder per version of FileMaker.
Yeah. Yep. All right, cool. Side of things. Over on the so on TK had a question. He goes, "Can you show?" It's up about a page. Can you show the progress bar when adding the add-on? I think he's talking about step number 1.
Yeah. Because so TK, if I wanted to add a progress bar on the install, if you're talking about whoops, where'd it go?
Remember where you said it'd take a while to start it? It's going to take a while. Remember that?
Oh, I don't know, because that's outside of my control. I don't have any control over what the hell is happening here. when you push this button, FileMaker is basically behind the scenes. It's writing XML into the file. That would be an interesting point though, because when I first made these, it was so instant you wouldn't need one. But as the file gets bigger and bigger and bigger, the time for install could go up. Granted, keep in mind, TK, the only person that's going to see that progress bar is a developer. So like end users, it's nice to give them a progress bar. I would argue that for me, the rainbow wheel is sufficient. But that's an interesting point. Someone should request it from Claris.
Yeah, that won't be me. They don't want to hear from me right now. So no. So all right. So but you folks should definitely write it up. And definitely do not tell him that Richard put you up to it. That would be bad. All right, so that's that question. And David says, "This was as the installer works on Windows?" ? And the answer is it should, but we haven't tried it on Windows, right? So
I haven't actually confirmed and tested it, but there's nothing in this file that is Mac specific, especially when it comes to the installer. In fact, the installer, I'll show it to everybody, but again, this will be more like our DevCon day thing. But the installer has one line of code that matters. Okay, I'm gonna get.
In fact, Alpha Lima 92651 just asked for that. Show us that code. I mean, just real quick.
Let's make it smaller. Sorry, that's in dark mode. I know that's a real snafu here in the streams, but.
Okay, I don't see anything.
I'm trying to make it small enough to. It's so hard on.
Okay, I can zoom in. Just get to the spot, and I will zoom in on.
I'm trying to make it small enough where it'll actually fit into the.
Got it.
Okay, so ignore all the red stuff, and this is it right here. So.
Okay, hang on. I'm zooming in. Don't move too much there, baby. All right, there we go. There's your code right there. So save a copy as an add-on package. So it's running that as the first line. So that's what Alpha Lima was asking, and that's also, I think, David might have asked that. In case I build a system using virtual memory, I have to copy the add-ons folder to the server to work. So no, you don't copy it to the server, right? You're going to have the add-on folder locally, and your copy of Pro is going to inject the XML. We need to animate this with some animations, right? Because you're doing it, you're talking, but people aren't following it. It's really this is step 1 right here, correct? This is step 1? When I say step one, this is step one, right, Christian?
Yes, step one is opening the installer and push install, and it.
So you're going to get our zip. You open our zip. When you open our zip, you're going to see the 3 files. You're going to run wherever you see the 3 files here. Christian, see the 3 files. Just move it out of the way for me.
Sorry.
Move the window. So you're going to see the 3 files. Then you're going to open the installer. When you run the installer, it's going to run that line that you just saw there. That's step one. Okay. It's also, there's not much of a progress bar on that either, right? And so there's nothing to do with the server. If the solution, because if you're, as long as you're logged in as an admin locally, right? I mean, that's a good question, but you can inject XML if it's a hosted solution, right?
I'm using this in a customer's hosted solution.
Yeah, I know, but did you inject it while the file was being hosted on the server, or did you have the file locally?
Yeah. I mean, it was before I had this installer. I had something else that doesn't look as clean, but I ran the installer, and then I opened their file
from the server, and then it injected
and I added the add-on to it.
Correct.
Which installed the XML.
Yeah, which injects, basically it takes the XML and injects it. Claris didn't want to use the word inject because that gets into SQL injection hacks and bad negative connotations of bad hackers and things like that. But basically we're injecting literally with a giant syringe XML into the FileMaker solution, right? So and
then just one thing, because I mean, if Kyle has some info on this, I'm definitely open to hear it. But when he's mentioning you can write those files, the files are created from this line. It seems like he's familiar with it. There's very little you do in this line of code. Basically, the way that this script works is it opens this file so that there's a window selectable, and then you select that file and say, hey, turn that into an add-on, and then I close the file. So it opens the file, turns it into an add-on, puts it in the library folder, closes the file. So how you edit the files that are created in that library folder, I need to figure that out. That's not something that I've spent time on yet.
Seems to me you'd be able to do that with your source material there, right? Somewhere you'd have that in a. So
you can absolutely edit it, but do you use, do I write an Apple script that goes in and does it? Is there something I do in the source file? Again, I haven't looked deeply into it, and though it is stated that you can edit the files, there isn't a how-to guide on it. So to go back to your question at the very beginning of this, how long does it take to learn how to do this? Well, to make an add-on, not necessarily all that long. How do you sit and customize the icons and put your name on it? Well, I'm personally still figuring that out. So it'll take me some time.
Okay, so we have another question on Twitch, if you want to take a look at that, from Jake Steele.
So I'm just going to back up a little bit. So Jake was asking, and Jake, you can confirm if I'm getting this correctly. How am I hiding the rows that are above this? Or how am I hiding the whole menu altogether? So there's 2 things here. One is that the menus are in a popover. So all this button does is it says, hey, go to this object. This is something that I was inspired by Nick, is our new terminology that we're using. Once it opens this, there's a bunch of portals in here. Go ahead, what are you going to say?
No, I was inspired, not stolen from Nick.
Not stolen. And so then the next question, and Richard, you had asked this last week. Okay, so you're in a popover and there's 3 portals. Well, maybe it makes sense how the 3rd portal is hidden, but how are the rows above this hidden? And basically you don't see it in the menu builder, but one of the things that's doing, like this new menu that got created, it was in the wrong spot. I need to click on this and it fixes itself. Well, what it just did right there is, and right now this is a filter, it probably won't be later, but there is an extra record in there called blank. Let's go over to menu 1. And let's look at finds. Blank, blank. These are blank rows. So there's an actual record in there, but there's no text, there's no icon, and basically the element just hides, so it appears blank. The reason that the other portals don't show up is basically 2 keys are being set. I can show that here really quickly. And again, today isn't necessarily as much of how does this work, but why is that not working? There we go.
There is the last Tuesday's conversation. We will try to. I'll work on getting a link for that real quick while you run this, Christian. I'm gonna quit looking at you and I'm gonna go hunt for this video so they have it from last week. So.
Builder. If this thing ever locks up on you, come over here and click. It's one of the bugs I haven't quite fixed, but there's a script trigger that's a little nasty over there. So this is key number 1 for the first portal. And when you hover on this, it puts a key in that shows all the children record for the third menu or the second menu. And similarly, there's the key for the third one. So it looks like Jake responded, like, if you only wanted the report button to show only if the user... Okay, I can explain that. So we're going to go back to what we were in the middle of when we got slightly distracted, which is no problem. So what Jake is asking is, okay, Christian, so you have one menu for accounts and you have one for contacts. How do you set that? So again, there's a key field that doesn't need to be on layout. It's because I want you all to see this. But basically, we have a script over here. And this script is on layout enter. And I've taken the key, the ID, the primary key for the menu set. That is the one that's labeled accounts or contacts. And I've hard coded it into here. Because that key should never change. And so every time you go to the layout, this key right here is going to change. We're going to show that here real quick. Okay. So I'm going to open our data viewer. And we're going to add GID menu. 1 second. And Richard, we haven't gotten to your favorite part yet. So right now it says, don't worry about the whole thing, BE48. I'm going to go to accounts, and it changes to 11A38. So as you navigate between these, a on layout script trigger fires, and we know that these IDs are going to stay consistent, so we can do hard coding in that case. Hopefully that kind of makes sense to the team there. Richard, does that make sense to you?
Yep, stand by. I'm pasting the broadcast, part 1 broadcast in right now so everyone can watch that. And then I did have a, so Christian, go ahead and bring up your, the menu for me real quick. Your configuration menu
demo?
for this. The configuration.
For people that are hanging out, there's one more kind of important step, but we'll get to
We're not done yet. We're not leaving. We're not leaving. Go to that part over there for me. Okay.
Sure.
So, all right. So what I want to do, put it at the top of the screen for me. Go ahead and put it at the window as high as you can go. All right, everyone hang on to your pants. This is going to be kind of cool. So, all right. So what we have is Nick has been working on the UI, right? So if I go over here to this, I can zoom in a little bit. But Nick has been already working to rebuild. So we've taken this interface right here, which makes perfect sense to Christian, and he has already built the prototype of the replacement for it here, right? And you can already tell it's a little bit cleaner, and he has some thoughts on this, but that's why you have a team. No one person can do everything. I clearly can't do everything, or I would. It's not possible. In the FileMaker community, there's so many moving pieces, not one person can do it all. And so you got Christians of the world, and Nicks of the world, and Miles's of the world, and David's of the world, and so very exciting. So this is what you will see on August 6th as we kind of try to land this and make it more final. But I just wanted to, Nick is already banging away on your stuff, Christian. Pretty cool. So
we had a 2-hour meeting yesterday. I'm really excited.
2-hour meeting? Oh my gosh, yeah. So.
Okay, so this next part, Richard, you have to at least let me explain the fix before you jump in, because you're gonna have stuff to say on this. I understand that. So when you add the add-on in the menu here, as I mentioned, the code.
Oh, I'm already vibrating. I'm already vibrating.
And then when you drag it over here, stuff happens on the back end, and I'm gonna set the stage on this a little bit. And I demonstrated this to the seniors at RCC this morning, and the way that I explain this is that basically this is a conversation piece. I'm not going to die on one stake saying that it needs to be one way or another, and people are going to have opinions, and that's totally fine. But we have something new to the platform, and how we use that new thing, it needs to be discovered and discussed by the community to figure out what that looks like. And so I'm going to go to the back end. Each time you drag it to a module, it's going to create a relationship. And what's important here is that you edit the relationship to turn these checkboxes off. And I would suggest turning into a Cartesian. For some reason, it totally works without it. I'm not 100% sure why. I have some ideas. I could see this delete record being a problem. I'm not sure that it would, but just to be safe, each time you add it to a module, you would do this. So if I went and drug it to contacts, I would need to do that as well. And speaking of which, let's go and see what happens to the relationship graph when you add this to multiple modules and why this is a conversation piece. So I'm going to say, okay, here, I'm going to move this out of the way. And I'm going to bring this over. And I can't remember if I'd mentioned this twice today, but I made a change to starting point. And that change is purely visual. There's no structural change. And that is, rather than the togs being in a grid, they're in a vertical line. Nothing different here than anyone should be familiar with in terms of traditional anchor buoy and starting point. When that module gets installed to the file, it gets thrown over here. Each time I drag it into a module, contacts or account, it draws one of these relationships. And so you get something that is non-traditional anchor buoy. Now, this can absolutely be converted to be traditional anchor buoy. These modules are absolutely potable to be moved over here as buoys. Richard doesn't necessarily want me to spend time today on it, but you can do that. And if you know how to add demo files to solutions already, you should have the skills to do it. Interface only has 3 keys. I've got one other point on that, but I can hear you growling. Do you want to share some of your opinions on that before I give the next more radical part?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So, and I'm going to articulate where Richard's coming from a little bit on here. These things, for this to be traditional anchor buoy, and there's an argument behind this, what we should do is each time we add it, we should copy these. We should put them over here like the keys that are in here should be moved there, and we should follow the traditional anchor buoy model. And anyone who has an argument for that, I'm not disagreeing with you. That being said, I am integrating this into files, and that's not the method that I'm going to follow, and you don't have to. However, I always defer to, on any relationship graph conversations, something Richard said in one of his videos. If you can make an intelligent argument as to why you should do something different on the graph than anchor buoy, then you're probably capable of doing those things. If the relationships are difficult for you and you can't make an intelligible argument on it, you should probably follow anchor buoy. And so if you add this module and you want help making it more anchor buoy, I would suggest reaching out to someone on our team and setting up like a coaching session to do that, because it would be beneficial to you.
Yeah, just to frame this, I have the phone on my desk, and one of the rules that we have is that the phone shouldn't ring with people complaining. And so if you're building a FileMaker solution for a hosted solution for 50, 80, 100 people, and you do this, you should expect the performance to go off a cliff. And when that happens, you should expect whoever's phone to ring, right? And I don't want to be your boss when that happens, right? So I understand that it does this. It's logical it does this. I don't have a problem with this. But even Claris the other day came out and explicitly said in a engineering blog, don't do that, right? Don't cross-connect all your table occurrence groups, because it will trash your performance. And the problem is, Claris has a real... We got into this conversation about a week ago. A bunch of you were talking about the idea that, well, I want to make enterprise applications, which basically means you're doing a lean design. You want to be able to do that, but I don't really want to have any experience. I just want to drag and drop it, and it naturally makes a enterprise application. Claris is never going to do that for you. I don't think any tool can do that for you. In order to build a real enterprise application, you have to have some experience, right? That's why we're here. We're giving you the experience, you're learning, right? But already you can see that Claris built a brand new feature. Their engineering team says one thing, okay? Yet when they roll out new code that does add-on modules, it breaks that recommendation. So am I mad at them? No. I think getting this to work at all is great. But as soon as you start cross-connecting your table occurrence groups, you can just kiss your performance out the window, right? It won't be a problem if you're running it locally or with 5 or 10 people, but at some point it will come to a grinding halt, and then you're going to be crying the blues, right? So that's just the way that is. So anyways, we keep losing Richard's sound.
Fortunately, Richard's phone doesn't ring from my clients. I think you get emails occasionally of how happy they are. So again, this is where I think this is a conversation piece. How we decide to use these as a community is probably going to change and evolve over time. Right now, my own integration will just follow the exact dropping on because it fits into something that I'm able to successfully use with my customers and haven't had an issue. But it's a conversation piece at the bare minimum of what these look like to add into the back end. But it's important that people know if they add these in, how to fix the relationship, and also to decide if they're going to follow this method, which is going into a more dangerous area if they don't know what they're doing, or if they take the extra steps to turn it into traditional anchor buoy, which is performance sound. And if you're not great with relationships, is the easiest method to follow. So that's it. It's really a 1, 2, 3 step process. Technically, if you change the relationship, there's a fourth step in here. But you run the installer, you add the add-on to the folder, into the file, and then you drag it into each of those modules. Past that point, it's up to you to build the menu sets that you want and create a logic, probably on layout enter, that sets that ID to drive the menus. A senior engineer already asked me this morning, okay, but what if we want to have a second one? So I think that there's also room for opportunity to expand this. But I want to pause here for a moment and see if there are any questions. I think that gives a good explanation of what the demo is and how you can add it to your own file to make it work.
It's a hack. That's Christian. There we go, Christian. Couldn't help himself. Yeah, it's a hack.
You mean that's Nick? I was waiting for Nick to say it. But
yeah.
You know what? It may be a hack, but it's a cool hack.
Oh, that's Nick's line. You guys steal each other's lines. We're going to have to write this down.
Well, I'm going to quote. Nick said the other day, it'll stop being a hack when he uses it. So I think that says a lot about what
the arrogance. The arrogance. Oh, my God. That's like 9 out of 10 on the arrogance scale. It won't be a hack. I have to say it with Nick's accent, though. It won't be a hack when I use it. So, yes.
That's the defining line between hack, not hack. But I think at the bare minimum is cool. Again, and the plugin part does kind of get into that area. So, by all means, disable that part. Play with this. Come back and tell us what you guys think. A few kinks that need to be worked out of it. And some of that stuff is kind of what Nick is working on right now, which I welcome the additions to this. This thing that I came up with was the back and forth of several different engineers, but it started off with a customer need and me making something that sucked, and basically I made it suck less and less and less to the point where I thought this is actually really cool now. Let's share it with the community.
Other questions that we have with this. What else, Christian? We do have to land this. We're at 1:15 right now.
Yeah, I was 2:15. I was trying to kind of wrap everything up there. So we haven't gone into exactly how the file works. That wasn't the intention of today. The intention is really just to show people how to use this. It's also for me to show the potential of the add-on tools and what these can do for us. Because again, I built something for a customer that I realized I would want to use for other customers. So the challenge for me was, how do I put this in such a way that I can give it to as many of my clients as easily and quickly as I possibly can? Traditionally, this has been making a demo file where I have to piecemeal everything over in the correct order, storing things in things like Clip Manager 5. The add-on tool is allowing me to port code over in a way and an ease that didn't exist in FileMaker before. And I think that's really cool. And in addition to that, everyone kind of gets the cream of the product, if you will, which is you guys have a cool new demo that you can use, and you can add it to your own files really easy.
Yeah, I think this is a great tool that a lot of people want to use. Other questions? Johnny at my Mac says, like Jake asked, user menu driven item. Okay, user. Okay, Chris, you want to look
I was reading. So here's my best guess of what Johnny is asking, and Johnny, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I showed how you can basically hard code a menu for like accounts or contacts. Like every time you go to accounts, you get this menu. Every time you go to contacts, you get this one. And he's saying, I think, well, what about if you wanted it per user? Well, Johnny, that would be up to you, the developer, to be able to track users in the system. I add that to most of my files, so I know who the user is. This is usually stored in like a global variable, and then I could have a log. I would have to basically build something for it.
Well,
This
it's in starting point though. We have a staff database, and you can have staff.
Doesn't tell you who the staff is when they log in. You have to add it. Unless we change starting.
No. It doesn't force that on them. Otherwise, before it worked, they'd have to add that.
Yeah, but the logic is, Johnny. Hopefully, you'll track the users in your system, and if you know who the users are, you can create a logic to decide what menu would be. You could do something really sloppy, like if it's Johnny, menu A. If it's Christian, menu B. Or you could make a portal in the staff section of the database where you assign a menu to that user, and then and possibly a layout. When they go to the layout, it would look at that logic and get them to go there. I'm giving you the eggs, the milk, and the flour. You can bake whatever you want with it. But if you're stuck on how to get your product, my answer is going to be come talk to the coaches, because we would be happy to show you how to do that. But the pieces are here. As far as how you would do that in your own file, it really depends on what your file looks like, and if there aren't other pieces that need to be added in.
Okay, so there's a response there to Jake, or did you respond to that one there?
I haven't yet. So my understanding is if I wanted a different menu to show up, even if it's only one item different from another menu, you would build each one completely in the menu builder and change the menu idea to show different menus. You're correct, Jake. So I'm going to open that really quickly and explain his question a little bit.
Okay, hang on. Let me transition you back to, because I'm actually wrestling with Android right now.
Okay. I'm going to open this up, and over here right now we've got a accounts and contacts menu. Let's just pretend for a moment that these were two menus for accounts, and this one was Jake and this one was Christian. And I only wanted one menu item different between them. What Jake was asking is, so you would need to create two separate menu sets and just change that one item, and that is correct. So if this was user 1 and they get access to reports, then you'd have that. If this was user 2 and they don't get access to reports, you would delete that one out of there. Change that to 2. But even though everything else in it would be the same, you would have to have a menu set per user, per layout, whatever that looks like for you. We said, Nick, I assumed there's a different one. Since it is more unlikely people want the same menu set on each layout, I suggest the user drag the add-on for each layout and then get the layout context-driven menu sets and then fix the performance issue, since each menu logic will be replaced for each layout. So I think what Nick's saying, and he can articulate someone saying it wrong, is if you were to create more of a traditional anchor buoy methodology for it, it might more easily be able to bake in what the logic is of which menu you drive there, or customize the menus themselves, since each set of menus would be specific to that tog rather than universal. Right now, it's the same set of relationships for every single tog, whereas if you added it into each one, you can make it a little bit more customized.
All right, everyone, appreciate it. Once again, fmtraining.tv. Tell your colleagues about awesome training that we provide. Once again, at fmtraining.tv. Go to the website. You can see the broadcast schedule. More importantly, don't forget to support the channel by making sure you have a bundle. If you have a bundle, it's really helpful. Allows us to pay the bills and keep the lights on. All right? And that's it for now. Thanks, everyone. Good job, Christian.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected, the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but then he makes the grab.